What's going on, everyone? I brought a very special guest. This is Jaime.
What's up, guys? I'm the founder of Megaminds Connect, a big community that we built here, and then Dream and Evan and a lot of people have participated in helping grow that community. And we're here at Dream. When I made Megaminds early on, that was the whole idea. Like, I wanted to be the small guy in the room. Like, I wanted all the people around me to just be wealthier than me, like bigger than me as far as like popularity and clout, and just people that I could actually learn from. Because a lot of times we'll surround ourselves with people that are like ourselves. They say like surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
But we should surround ourselves with bigger minds.
Yeah, better people.
Yeah.
Now, people that will maybe get you out of let you be out of your comfort zone.
That's facts.
Because a lot of people are just chasing groups to accept them, which I don't get. I don't think that way. It's hard for me to understand, but it seems like the majority of people just want to just be accepted as a baseline. Mm-hmm. And I think that.
Where do you think it comes from? Like, what do you like based
low self-confidence?
Okay.
Like a different view of themselves, so maybe.
Do you think that we're born with like low self-image?
I don't think so. No, I think society kind of pressures us, especially what we're exposed to. We're exposed to so much because there's news and information. So it's so easy to saturate your mind into like.
That's fact.
If you watch the news a lot, you'll be dead set that police are out there punching black people in the face just for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like.
And vice versa. If you dive into the rabbit hole and go down the conspiracy lane, then all of a sudden everything around you is a conspiracy.
Yeah, then you start conspiracy theories are real.
Yeah.
I'll admit that there are some crazy conspiracy theories that on the surface are just only an insane person will give it any kind of validation. But then it's like, actually, that's the way it is. It's real.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We were talking about a topic the other day, and it's I think that the media specifically and just society as a whole, right? What they do is, it's similar to like, when we're kids and like, we're all, everybody's wearing Converse, for example. Like, we all want to wear Converse, right? But then the one kid that got Skechers on is getting made fun of because he's different, right? And not knowing that, hey, shit, maybe the Skechers are way more comfy, and in the future the Skechers are going to be in versus the Converse, right? That probably not true. Chuck Taylor's pretty, up there, but you get the analogy.
It's subjective,
Yeah, you get the analogy, right? So it's like, I think a lot of times, if someone is willing and brave enough and courageous enough to step out, think differently or be different, whether that's based on you or like, your parents can't afford Converse, they can afford Skechers, right? People will lash out because it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like a really difficult situation because you want to be different, you want to have your individuality, but you don't want to go against the grain. So it's like, to what degree do I need to be an individual, and what degree you sort of have, you could be, some people want to fit in, some people want to stand out completely. I would say it's much better to just hold your head down and just be quiet and fit in over being like the queerness where it's just 100% I'm going against whatever I feel is, and I don't mean queer as in the way like
that gay,
gay, but the actual meaning of queerness is just Michael Foucault. People don't know that, but it's just whatever social norm it is, go against it. It's wrong. And it's like,
so you don't like being in that environment, I guess. Like, you don't like going against the grain. Or?
I think I've done it too much, and I've realized like you just don't get anything good out of life other than to maybe feed into your narcissistic, tendencies. And
that's a fair point, bro. Because like, I mean, you look at people that have lashed out, right? So you look at like the Kanye Wests of the world. Like, you look at like the Andrew Tates of the world, Donald Trump. Like these people, Adolf Hitler. Like, I mean, like some of them aren't so great. Some of them aren't so great, right? But like, they're people that fed into their narcissistic tendencies, and they said, you know what, I got enough balls to go against this. And most of the time, right, it's hard to really say, because even Jesus Christ, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard hard to say, like, a time in history where somebody standing out actually ends up, like, it ends up going well for them, right?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, because it's a good thing to be an individual, but you're probably not going to have the best time being an individual.
Well, and it's because we're outnumbered, right? So, for example, if I'm of the belief of the opposite of you, right? Like you're saying, like, hey, keep your head down, get through it, nose clean. It's what they tell you in corporate, right? Keep your head down, keep your nose clean, get through it, just get it done, and then you'll get all your benefits and all the shit, right? Well, in society, it's the same way, but on the opposite side, if you're of the thinking of, like, you know what, there's a reason that I feel the tendencies that I feel. There's a reason that I have a narcissistic trait in me, which I think is given to us at birth, just when they identify the gender, whether you believe in that or not, right? But like, they give you that male.
There's a predisposition, psychological disposition. It has to do with the hormones and your endocrine system. It's for sure.
Yeah, we go back in time, and right, like we were barbarians, bro. We were savages. We were, you know what I mean? Like we were hunt, kill.
It had to be. It's a necessity to survival.
Yeah, it was a means of survival.
Which I think it still is. I still think being a savage is a necessity for survival.
So then, with that in mind, though, why would you have the opinion that you have, as far as like
it's that.
It's contradicting.
I'm not saying it is very conflicting, but what I think it's better to start out by saying I'm going to learn how to fit in as maximum as I can, so I can learn where to meticulously and mindfully stand out.
Okay, that's fair.
So
that's
it's like fair. that way you don't risk the chances of falling into the tide too heavily. I mean, because then it's just a numbers game. It's like, oh, I'm going to stand out. I'm just going to go run down naked. It's like, well, hold on. There has to be a baseline of, like, even when you're a child. When you're a child, up until you're like, 12, you are integrated into your family. It's about behaving. Don't touch that vase. All that. And then there's this part of us that wants to break out. And then it's crazy because it actually goes full circle to where when you get older, you're trying to come back into the community.
Yeah.
And that's like even like symbolically, that's what tribes do. When the child turns, like some tribes do it as early as 8 to like 14 is when you become a man, and they literally kick you out of the tribe. Not every tribe, but a lot of African and South American tribes will banish their children. Well, not banish, but they'll like go figure out where you go. Yeah. Sometimes it includes like fasting and starving yourself till you start hallucinating, and then you decide what you're gonna be when you come back. But
oof, damn. Okay, let's just go down this road. I wasn't gonna take it there, but like now that you're tapping in, okay. So, do you believe that, like, for example, starving yourself and these different methods, natural methods that people would do back in the day, right? Because like you said something, right? They banish them, make them fast, whatever, so they can start hallucinating and start tapping into a different frequency.
Sometimes they'll do it. It's like you fast until
you have that revelation.
It's a revelation, and it might say, oh, you want to be a healer, or I want to be a hunter-gatherer, or it's something like that, and you're like, oh, I know who I am now, and then you come back and you get to tell your tribe, I figured it out, or a spirit came to me, and I'm going to be a shaman, which is, that's a hardcore job to be.
Yeah. Well, especially if you have that calling, right? Like, I mean, like the thing about it is, I mean, if this is true though, right? How does one separate what is a calling and what is straight up hallucination?
Well,
how do you identify that?
I think that's why it's good to have a baseline default grounded in sort of the society as a whole. So it safeguards you from the conflict. It's.
But when you have this revelation, how do you stay silent?
Well, you don't know. You can't know. There's a collective. There's a collective thought. Like, thoughts are not ours. Thoughts present themselves to us in this chaotic thing that's going on. It's a biological process, and when we identify a thought as ours, like I'm having this thought, that's when it becomes the ego, and we identify it as us. But it's not us. Like, we have thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
The more that you're aware of that fact, that these thoughts are not mine, they're presented to me, then you're not, your ego, your shadow's not controlling you.
Okay.
You can stand out, and then you can process and run your simulations in your mind. If I do this, like, I don't have to jump off that building. I could run the simulation in my head.
And you know what the outcome is.
Yeah, and I'm like, I probably will not be okay.
I like to write, right? So like I think that when we write things down, especially when we're having all these sporadic thoughts and we form them into a beautiful scripture of ideas onto paper,
Sure.
right? I think that is the point in time in which humans, us specifically, are most in control of our mind.
Yeah,
because
that's divine creation.
We completely eliminate the barrier of sound, or the middleman of sound, if you want to call it, and it's direct thought to action, to reality, right?
Yeah, the physical, you're putting something that's abstract into like words, into semantics, which is a higher level from abstraction, is like language, and then you can like process it differently.
Yeah, because now it's real, right? Like now when you've written it down, now it's real. Now you can see it, visualize it. It's much more clear at that point what your thoughts are about, what they mean. But I think that everyone has to understand that we are living in a, like you said, like a reality. Like, okay, this is our society, this is our reality. Mm-hmm. But then there is a greater reality that we're not aware of. There's also a virtual reality. Mm-hmm. That
now there totally is,
and so
which is probably bigger than reality itself.
Actually,
at least in postmodern societies.
That's crazy as fuck to think about. Like, I mean, because where do we get these ideas of making a computer? Like right now we're looking at this computer, like this whole setup. Like, how do we come up with this idea to construct this computer?
To compute. I mean, it's the most advanced thing that humans have ever made, at least so far that we know of, that we still have. I mean, there's even computers that the Erythrarca device. They found it like in the Mediterranean. It was a bunch of gears. They think Archimedes maybe made it, and it's a computer that it's like a planetarium. It like very accurately tells the positions of the planets, and it was made like, they think around, I might be wrong, but it's like 500 BC.
I mean,
that shit's,
I believe it. If you
there's gears 500 BC, then we don't see gears ever again for like 1,000 years, because Archimedes was known to like create he created the screw.
Of course. And now, what does a screw consist of?
I guess a helix around a shaft.
Yeah, and then what is engraved in the cylinders, like in the cylinder of a screw? Grooves.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Grooves. So this talks
so
about
talks
about the technology that we were talking about before, where it's like, there's these small grooves in tools and technology that we have today that we just simply could not process. Like, we couldn't go through life without them. It's something very simple, right? As a screw, as a bolt, and maybe we could substitute these things, but it would just be very like
time consuming,
inconvenient.
You chisel a rock and you want to make it smooth. You can make it smooth as a laser by hand, but how long is that going to take you? And you're not going to find a lot of specialists that can do that.
Yeah, no, and then you can't scale anything, right?
I mean, the time, but like we were talking about the pyramids of Giza, and this is what blows my mind, is that, I mean, there's strong evidence that it was made under 50 years. I think the number is it like 20? Do you know the number? It's like 20 something years.
I don't know the exact number, but I know it's sub 30.
Yeah.
And
like that's just fucking crazy to me.
Well, and also, again, we believe, well, I say we, but you believe that the Egyptians, right, used the sand and the wood, and they used
water. They actually flooded out land to tide, like, I don't know what I think they had like animal carcasses full of air. They pretty much used boats, but they tied the stone around rope, and then they flooded the area out.
So think about how massive this flood had to be
huge.
to actually pull that off, especially when they're pulling, stone and different types of.
I see them. That's how I see those civilizations. I see them as just amazing. Like, how did they do this?
But I don't think they did. I think that the pyramids were actually prior, and I think that the flood, right, that you're speaking of.
The deluge?
Yeah.
The deluge flood, like the flood?
We'll get into that in just a second. Yeah, we'll hold that. But I think that the flood thing, like, bro, we as human beings, we can be stupid as fuck, and we can be smart as fuck. We can do anything in the world that we want to do. However, I find it hard to believe that we flooded out by hand, like with the fucking pyramid, like I mean that area, that arid area of the Sahara Desert. Again, my theory behind all of it.
I'll show you some videos of like some random guys.
I mean, yeah, I could also show you videos on the opposite argument.
Sure, okay.
Fair enough. You know, so it's.
And I wasn't there. I can't say.
None of us can say.
I'm leaning more towards that it was some genius engineers, but maybe I'm biased because I'm an engineer, so it's like I want to believe that people could do that.
Well, and the thing is, I don't think that people can't do that. I just think that at the time, like you mentioned, right?
How do they do that in 20? Even the most genius engineers, I mean,
the thing about it is this, bro. If you think about the technology of a screw, right, and you apply the same theory to something of what a pyramid would be, okay, you have the pyramid, and then you go inside the pyramid, you have the queen's chamber, the king's chamber, you have all these different chambers, you have these little grooves, these little holes, right, and then...
You're talking about 2,000 years prior to Archimedes.
Yes, yeah.
This is.
Well, even prior to that, because I don't believe that
and then the Sphinx is, the Sphinx is, I think, isn't it like 30,000? They said that the base...
I also don't believe that the Egyptians even built any of that. It's just infrastructure.
It's First Kingdom.
Yeah, I don't think we even have, that is probably the oldest, thing that we have on Earth that we can visibly see as...
Because it's stone. Like, imagine all the stuff. Like, we only find stone and we find later on metal, bronze stuff. Think of, like, a lot of the people lived off of leather and stuff from, they plant organic type of structures and huts. All that stuff is gone. We've actually found, like, on ancient sites, like, we'll go, I think it was in Mexico or South America, where they went to, like, a mine site, and they're like, oh, shit, this place has been here since, like, 1000 BC. But then they look in the ground, and they see this fire pit, or it wasn't a fire pit, but it was like there was wood in there and like a burial ground. Like, this is like 20,000 years before that.
Well, and the reason that they think that as well, though, is because a lot of times they'll find human remains, bro, that are ginormous, like giant, right? So, like, they don't want people to really think that, like, oh shit, there was giants. And now,